All right, let's begin this morning with the war in Iran. U.S. Central Command says its blockade of the country's ports is now fully implemented. CENTCOM's commander says U.S. forces have, quote, completely halted economic trade going into and out of Iran by sea, adding that Tehran's international sea trade powers an estimated 90% of the nation's economy. In an interview that aired this morning, the president told Fox Business the war is near an end.
You keep saying was. Is this war over?
I think it's close to over, yeah. I mean, I view it as very close to over. You know what? If I pulled up stakes right now, it would take them 20 years to rebuild that country. And we're not finished. But we'll see what happens. I think they want to make a deal very badly.
CBS News White House reporter Olivia Rinaldi joins us now from Washington. Olivia, it feels like the president is the only one saying that this war is nearly over. I don't hear that language from the Iranians. I don't hear that language from the Israelis. He's been saying that since the very start of the war. I mean, at this point, is this just wishful thinking on the president's part?
You know, it is a good question. I actually was just listening to Scott Bessent on CNBC, and he said, I don't know when the war is going to be over. It could be 3 days, 3 weeks, 3 months even. And that was the longest I've heard from an administration official about how long this war could go on. So you're right. It's kind of up to the president. We also heard from other members of his administration this morning who are trying to talk about tax day, because, of course, today is April 15th, tax day. Oh. But instead, the questions keep coming back to Iran and what is going on in Iran. And all of them have said this war will end when the president, you know, fully says it ends. You know, really, it's up to him. Everyone in his administration is saying it's up to him. And we also heard from the vice president yesterday who said that the president doesn't want just a ceasefire or reopening of the Strait of Hormuz. He wants a grand bargain with Iran. No nuclear weapon, and we can reopen your economy and make it great. So this is becoming a more protracted negotiation than perhaps we had realized beforehand.
Olivia, how is this blockade impacting what we think might be talks coming? I mean, what's your sense from Washington and your sources at the White House?
So people tell me that there are still conversations, negotiations that are happening behind the scenes, and they're fruitful negotiations. There seems to be a sense of positivity that I'm getting from a lot of folks. A senior administration official did tell me this morning, though, that they are not extending the ceasefire as of yet. There was conversation that perhaps they could extend the ceasefire if these conversations behind the scenes are going well in an effort to continue diplomacy, but that has not seen any extension of the ceasefire deal as it is right now. We are entering the second week of the ceasefire deal. We know it was 2 weeks long, so we'll have to see. But so far, there seems to be a bit of positivity that they could get somewhere on these negotiations soon.
All right, Olivia Rinaldi, thank you so much. For more on the situation in the Middle East, we are now joined by CBS News senior foreign correspondent Elizabeth Palmer in Tel Aviv. Liz, thank you so much for joining us. So what have we seen in terms of any movement at all in the Strait of Hormuz since this American-implemented blockade?
It's not a clear picture, in part because some ships are turning off their transponders, the little beacons they use to identify themselves, and so we can't really see them on any of the marine tracking sites. CENTCOM told us that they turned back 6 Iranian ships in the first 24 hours of the blockade. And we know that 2 of them went back to the coast of Iran, not in the pinch in the Straits of Hormuz, but further down the coast, which shows that the American blockade is really affecting a huge stretch of coastline. What we're not seeing, and because this blockade was supposed to stop Iranian ships carrying Iranian oil, funneling money into the Iranian economy, but it was meant to allow other ships to get through, and we're not seeing that. The big tankers belonging to other countries don't seem to be willing yet to run, not the U.S. blockade so much, because technically they can go through that, but they don't want to come close to the Iranian coast in that pinch point where they could be fired on. So the price of oil is still very high, under $100, but 30% higher than it was at the beginning of the year, and that's why you're seeing such high gasoline prices at the pumps.
And Liz, as you know, Iran's military this morning has threatened to block Gulf trade. What are you hearing about that?
Well, it's a great big swaggering threat, which I think we have to take with a pinch of salt, particularly if another round of talks is looming. But in it, there is a pretty serious warning. The military commander said that they would try and shut down trade in the Red Sea. Now, quite a lot of oil is coming out of the Red Sea, and Iran has no real naval might in the area. It certainly doesn't have any coast there. So what they're really saying is we're going to get our proxies, the Houthis in Yemen, to start firing missiles on ships there. That is a serious threat. It happened a few months ago, and if it did go ahead, that would mean oil prices would rocket up even more.
All right, Elizabeth Palmer, thank you so much.